Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
This is exactly how I imagined you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
Yeah, this is Becko. Welcome back to The Rider, part 2 of our chat with Michael Chugg. Chuggy is an absolute legend, a great bloke, and he's got a million stories. And if you missed part 1, make sure you go back and catch up because he opens up about so many experiences with his good mate, Michael Gudinski, the signing of AC/DC, going on the road with this incredible young Aussie band right around the world. You can go back now and catch up on all platforms. But right now, part 2 of our chat with Michael Chugg. Still to come, we'll talk about Fleetwood Mac, that famous tour with Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion, and also how did he bring back the famous Frank Sinatra to the Australian shores. All that to come in the next 30 minutes, but right now, this is a very honest and emotional part of the interview with Michael Chugg. He lost his great mate, Michael Gudinski, an icon of the Australian music industry, and they had partnerships over the years. They had, in a way, broken up and then were preparing to come back together as a joint venture. Let's pick it up with Michael Chugg, talking about his future with Michael Gudinski.
Gudinski and I, we'd always been friends and rivals and friends, and we'd talk over the years. But in 2018, we started talking about getting back together, leaving a legacy for our families and the industry. And so we did a JV between Frontier and Chugg Entertainment. Unfortunately, COVID hit and Michael died, but the JV's still going on. We've got some exciting things coming up, hopefully around the end of 2022. So we got back together and I'm very happy that we did that. And I'm totally into the whole thing now with Matt Gudinski, and it's an incredible thing that we've done. And, I'm just sorry that he can't be here with us.
What was the last conversation you guys had together? Because I know he was in Sydney for the Oils gig.
I spoke to him 8 hours before he died on the Monday night. He was giving me shit about something. We talked for about 20 minutes. And then the next morning I woke up and I had about 8 messages on my phone from Frank Sinatra in Melbourne. And I rang him and he told me. Total shock. Total shock. I knew all about the Oils. He'd been up for the Oils and all that. And I was out of town. I was in Brisbane with one of our bands. Could have been Lime Cordial, actually. Anyway, very sad. And it was such a shock. I didn't expect he'd go before me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I still miss him all the time. And I was writing to Dion, who runs Mushroom Frontier, and I said, God, I'm just watching the ashes. If Michael was still alive, he'd be dancing around his fucking lounge room right now because he was such a cricket addict.
Yeah.
So, you think about him all the time. Comes up all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure there's things where you go for the phone and you forget, and you both have had a great commitment to Australian music and nurturing those small bands and giving them that just a leg up.
I remember spending a lot of time in America with him when he had Joe come up, Joe and the Falcons over there. I was over there when the Sports were doing stuff. I mean, Steve White and I were the first people to ever play Split Ends at the Coogee Hotel in Sydney. There was 12 people there throwing cans at it. He went on and signed them. And that band, Ian Copeland, the late Ian Copeland, who was the brother of Stuart Copeland and ran FBI, which Frontier Booking International, which is where we got the name Frontier. He was a close friend of mine. We hung out at conferences and everything. He said to me, not once, but many times, that Split Ends were about to be one of the biggest bands in the world when they broke up. And of course, you saw where Crowded House went after that. But I remember how much Michael put into Split Ends. And, I was there when Skyhooks exploded, and basically kept the whole mushroom thing going. Michael and I had similar philosophies in that, if you believed in something and you would go to the ends of the earth to make it work, you'd pour every cent you had into it, knowing that if it succeeded, you'd get the money back. But there was a lot of acts went very, very close to breaking that international barrier, which is what we're all about. I mean, when my band Shepherd had massive hit with Geronimo around the world, Gudinski was the first one to congratulate me, knowing that he'd be pretty pissed off and jealous about it too, But that was how we were, and that's still how it is. I mean, there's one or two managers who I won't mention names of, but they used to go around the world and people would ask them about other Australian bands and they'd say, oh, they're shit, don't even bother with them. I'd go into heads of Sony offices and I'd hear these stories and people would say to me, what do you think of so-and-so? And sometimes I'd never heard of the band, but I'd go, oh, they're great. They're just so hot, and build up every moment, every opportunity you got, you build up Australian music. It didn't matter if it was somebody else's band or not. I mean, we suffered up until the early 2000s, I suppose, with this attitude of where so many bands, like you'd have a big hit like Daddy Cool Did or one of those, and you're only ever as big as that hit. And your career never kept going. Where in America, you had one or two hits in America, you're still making a big living today. And here in this country, you were only as big as your last hit. So there were regularly, and there were competitions, Sherbet or Skyhook's the biggest, or is Daddy Cool and Billy Thorpe the biggest? And that was very detrimental to our music, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, streaming's changed the whole landscape. But I know, Michael, was frustrated with Cold Chisel and Jimmy. Like they were destined for massive things over there, and it just didn't work out. And
that's right. And I was there. I was with Jimmy, and he was staying in. What's the name of the huge American record legend? He was staying
was
in
Jimmy Iovine, was it? Or
no, bigger than that. One of the real legends. I forget his name. It'll come to me. Anyway, I was there when Jimmy was basically making the soul album. And Michael, everything was resting on that. I mean, Jimmy's actually bigger overseas now than he's ever been.
That is true. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about the Fleetwood Mac tour. There's a couple of key tours, that you put on that you tell great stories about. And the Fleetwood Mac Rumours tour just had so much to unpack.
Yeah, Rock Arena was this very special situation where, Fleetwood Mac and Dainty, we put Santana on and Eddie Money, who'd had a monstrous hit at the time. And we had the Little River Band and Kevin Boris Express. And it was quite incredible tour, amazing tour. And Sydney Showgrounds was quite a trip. We'd had to import Gatorade in from America for Fleetwood Mac, cases of it. And we also needed to get Heineken beer, which was very rare.
It was back then. You couldn't get it.
Yeah. So we got all the Heineken and we got the Gatorade. And I also had to, for the rest of the tour, I had to smuggle limes across the border because you couldn't get them in every state. Anyway, we're at Sydney Showground, and as I do at the beginning or before the show started, I would walk around and check everything. And I walked into Fleetwood Mac's dressing room, and there were 4 dozen bottles of Heineken without any bottle tops. And I've gone fucking nuclear. I've started screaming, which I used to do a lot in those days. And their tour director, John Courage, who's another story. He was the second son of the Courage beer family, and he was the one who either joined the army or fucking got moved to India, but he became a roadie and ended up being Fleetwood Mac's manager in a lot of ways. Anyway, he said to me, come with me. We walk up on the stage, and there's 2 little tents either side of the stage. And in the tents is a card table. And on the card table, one bottle top on top of another one. And he shows me what's in the bottle top, which I'll leave to your imagination. And I said, you fucking arsehole, this Heineken cost me $5 a fucking bottle. We could have bought a gross of fucking bottle tops for fucking $2.
I just love how they had to have it in a certain bottle top.
We won't get too deep into that.
No.
I don't know whether the statute, I suppose the statute of limitations gone away. The other thing about it was they wanted a medieval tent backstage. And in that tent was a 30-foot long medieval table with king and queen chairs at each end. And, you know, on the table were whole roast pigs, whole roast lambs, platters of salmon, smoked salmon, all, you know, just a banquet, incredible banquet. And there were bottles of Dom Perignon and bottles of Pimm's, which I'd never heard of, with an English drink, and just the best French whites and reds and everything in there. It cost a fortune to do that. And, you know, they never went in there. All three fucking shows, they never went in there. So one of the roadies, a lighting guy called Peter Rooney, and I got some of the Jan's lighting cases and got them converted into bottle racks. And at the end of the shows, we'd take all the Dom Perignon and all the French wines, and we were carrying about 4 road cases of wine. I think I drank the last bottle of Dom in about 2001. So we did well. And then all the roadies breaking down the stage, loading the trucks, they had the best after load out dinner you've ever had in your life.
Oh, can you imagine? So that was the decadence of backstage at Fleetwood Mac, and
it was unbelievable. And you know, I had been in Perth with Rory Gallagher, and I couldn't get back in time for the site inspection and the placement of the stage at Calder Raceway. So anyway, we're letting all the crowd in, and they're coming in, and we suddenly realised the fence was about 30 yards too far forward. And it was so fucking packed. And then, of course, you cop that 4 seasons in one day in Melbourne. I'll never forget the roadies are loading out, and every piece of paper, every piece of flotsam was blown up against the stage security fences by a 60, 80 kilometre wind at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then driving home, there's like 20,000 people walking home from Calder Raceway. Oh, shit, the bad vibes we copped in the media for the next couple of weeks.
Now, your book came out in 2010, Hey You in a Black T-shirt, and that came from the Guns N' Roses Use the Illusion tour, which probably the greatest tour that Australia ever saw. And I can't imagine the amount of prep to make that all happen, and not just to get Guns N' Roses, but you had Guns N' Roses having a week off between shows. There was Sydney and Melbourne. Tell us about that day in Sydney.
Well, that was an incredible day. I mean, we still hold the record for the biggest one-day show ever. 77,000 people. I had a hospital backstage with my doctor, Dr. Chung, and nurses, and we had the chief inspector of the Blacktown Police. Him and I formed a pretty good relationship. We actually did, a few days before the show, we did 7:30, or the Tonight Show, if it was called then, with Liz Hayes, because Ken, the chief inspector, had long silver hair, beautiful silver mane. So she called us Silver Tongue and Silver Hair, Silver Top and Silver Tongue. So, you know, I was lucky. We'd done a tour with Guns N' Roses in arenas earlier, and actually, you know, despite everybody saying Axl hated promoters, Axl and I actually got on really well. And we spent many hours on that arena tour hanging out late at night, just talking and being, you know, pretty good mates. So I wasn't really worried about all the death and destruction shit that the newspapers were promoting. We knew, you know, we were pretty together. And we worked for months on this show. I mean, we had meetings out at Eastern Creek with the council, the police, the health and safety. I mean, the traffic, you name it. A lot of work went into that show in Sydney. Axel had arrived. I think it was in James Packer's helicopter, which was sitting out at the back. And we were all on target. And I went down. I get a call. Chief Inspector wants to see you now. So I go down to the police compound and he says, Chuggy, I don't give a fuck what you do. He said, you can tell them to stamp on. He said, I don't care what you fucking do. Put those fucking fires out. The idiot groundsman had cut the grass 4 days before. So there were piles of dead grass everywhere. Then you've got all the plastic and styrofoam that comes with all the, you know, in those days with your beers and your, and so the kids have started all these fires. And we've been, Skid Row's been off about half an hour. We're waiting for Guns N' Roses, who we expect to be, will be late on stage. So I walk out on stage. I walked up to the microphone, and unbeknownst to me, Nick Bennett, Triple M DJ, was in the audience because Trevor Smith was broadcasting live from there. So they'd slipped Nick into the audience with a microphone, and I didn't know. So I walked out on stage, and evidently Nick's gone, here he comes, Axel's walking on. So it wasn't, it was me. I walked up to the microphone, and I said, Sydney, I don't give a fuck what you do. You can piss on them, you can roll on them, or you can stamp on them, but put those fucking fires out now, or Axel and I are getting in that helicopter over there, and we're fucking off back to Sydney, and you can all walk home. Well, the fires went out immediately. I mean, the reason it had been motivated was we had 40 people in the fucking hospital with asphyxiation. No. So anyway, we got through that. We went to Melbourne, which was another 4 seasons in one day, and we copped a lot of shit over. Second time at Quarter Raceway, never again. Anyway, I'm in Perth on a tour about 2.5 months later, and I knew this guy. His name was John. He was 30, 40 years old. He had a disability. But I always, a big fan of music, I always said hello. And he came running over the back of the Perth car, Entertainment Centre car park. And he yelled out, Mr. Chugg, Mr. Chugg. I went, hi, John, how are you? He said, you were terrific at Guns N' Roses. I said, oh, you came over and you didn't come and visit me? He went, no. I heard you on the radio. I'd rung Charlie Fox at Triple M and gone, you fucking prick. And he, before I could say another word, he said, we were wondering how long it'd take you to find out. That rave went live across Triple M Australia.
And not even just Sydney, right around the country. God.
Yeah, everywhere. Anyway, I found out because of my mate in Perth, because I'm nice to people and people tell me shit. Yeah, the black T-shirt thing came because we were Andrew Tattray from Aces Security, who ran our sites and did all that for many, many years. He was at the front gates, and in at Eastern Creek, you had the hill, and then the gates were over the other side of the hill. You couldn't see. And he gets on, and I'm on stage at the microphone. He said, get ready. Okay, gates are open. Here they come. And then all of a sudden, there's about 10,000 kids on the top of the hill, like an Indian tribe from an old movie, right?
Yeah.
And they've all started running. And I've gone, hey, you in the fucking black T-shirt, stop running now. And they've all stopped, looked at each other, laughed, and walked down the hill. That's where the title of the book came from.
And everyone knows that quote. I interviewed Matt Sorum, the drummer of Guns N' Roses, and he brings up that quote
as well.
A few years later, when Sting was doing his solo trip, they recorded some of my introductions. And one night I got a call from a friend in Spain, in Barcelona, and he said, "Are you here?" I went, "What are you fucking talking about?" He said, "I just heard you on the microphone introducing Sting." So they took my fucking intro around the world. Yeah.
That is amazing. There's one more tour I want to ask you about because it feels like I just don't know how you did it. Frank Sinatra was in Australia in 74 and said, "Never again, I'm out. I'm never coming back." And you somehow got him back.
Well, it's a long story. Tony Cochrane, who now is the president of the Suns and also made the supercar thing the biggest since sliced bread. Tony was working for a guy at Sanctuary Cove called Al Gore. And they bought Sinatra and Whitney Houston out to open Sanctuary Cove. And I went up there, as did Paul Nady, as did Gary Van Egmond, as did everybody. And it was horrible. You were eaten to death by mosquitoes and the fucking chairs were sinking in the mud. It was just horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went backstage. I knew Tony because Tony used to be high watt lighting at the Adelaide Memorial Drive in orange jumpsuits, putting in the lights and the follow spots. I went back and I saw Tony and I told him very effusively that it was fantastic what he'd done and what a fantastic thing. So about 8 months later, he rings me and he goes, "I've got a chance of bringing the main event, Sinatra, Sammy Davis and Dean Martin, to Australia. Would you guys like to be involved?" So I immediately went to Gudinski and said, "We've got to do this." So we did. And then Dean Martin was very ill and Liza Minnelli replaced him. It was amazing, amazing tour. It was just sensational. And to be, I grew up when I was 2 or 3 years old. I'd listened to my father's 33s, and obviously Frank Sinatra was a big impression on my very young age,
Yeah.
So for me, I flew my parents over from Tasmania. I think it's the first time my father actually stopped telling me to get a haircut and said I was doing a good thing. Anyway, yeah, he was grumpy old bastard, but it was a sensational tour.
Was that the moment where you realized your dad was proud of you?
That was the moment.
That was the moment?
Yeah, that was the moment.
But I love that Sammy Davis Jr. kind of stole the show, didn't he? He was on the front page of the paper in Sydney. That didn't go down too well with Frank either.
No, I'll tell you the story. So I'm out and about. Michael and I had been out to dinner with Elliot Wiseman, who was Frank's manager. We'd been at Darcy's in Paddington. So I got back to the hotel. By the time I got back to the hotel, it was 2:00 in the morning. And I went to sit with the security guys. Tony Edwards, a copper we used to, incredible guy. And I was sitting with them when the papers arrived. And of course, we get a paper, and here's Sammy, photo on the front page. Well, about 15 minutes later, I hear this bang, bang, bang. "Get up, Jilly, get up, Jilly." Jilly's Frank's bodyguard, been with him for 40 years. Jilly was in bed with a hooker that Ian, the tour manager, had set up for him with big bazookas was his bodyguard. So he's in bed with the girl, and Frank's banging on his door. Get up, we're fucking going home." And he's waking everybody up. So I've had to walk around and I've gone, "Mr. Sinatra, excuse me, Mr. Sinatra. Look, I understand that you're upset. I'm never going to sing with that little again." Okay, look, I know you're upset, but there's no flights, sir. You won't be able to get out of here mid-morning tomorrow. And we still had a show or two to do. I said, "I think you should go back to bed." And he swore at me and stuff. And he wandered off back to bed. But if I hadn't have been there, oh, my God.
Your job is just putting out fires, isn't it? That's all you're doing there.
Yeah. I mean, as well as making sure the artists are looked after, the other motto we had was to be seen and not heard. So you're always there, and I've had, I remember back in the 70s when we were doing Bowie with Dainty, we were at, I think, was it called the White Elephant, this trendy club in Perth, which had the best clubs in Australia back in those days. And it was a press conference for Bowie, and I was standing side of street, just making notes about shit I kept remembering. I always used to write everything down. David walked over and said, "Hi, how are you?" Because he knew I was involved. I said, "I'm great, Mr. Bowie. Thank you." Yeah. He said, "What are you doing? You're writing stuff down." I said, "I'm writing down things, Mr. Bowie, to make the tour work even better for you." And he smiled and off he went. But that was what you did. You were seen and not heard. I mean, a few times in the front of your days, Michael Philip Jacobson and I staged some pretty big arguments in the corridors of the backstage just to calm down a few arseholes who, subtly changed their attitude when they heard us carrying on like wild men.
Well, before you go, I want to ask you, because the podcast is called The Rider. Back in the day, what did you actually have in your rider when you were buzzing around backstage? It must have had some demand, like I want a bottle of whiskey or whatever it was.
Well, there were various periods where, I was Jack Daniels, 2 bottles a day, man, for a while. I was a vodka, man for, John Courage taught me how to drink vodka and Coke in milkshake cartons. That was pretty awful. And, I graduated. Obviously, you can't stay alive if you keep drinking all that shit. And so, these days, it's a bottle of good Pinot Noir. And if you can get it, preferably from Oregon.
Good luck getting a bottle of that in Phuket.
All right.
You're doing all right?
And Nero Diavolo from Sicily, where I spent 6 weeks a few years ago. That's really good. And so that's my rider. It's not crazy. I try not to drink too much these days.
No, you're looking after yourself. And you look really well, mate.
Stay alive. Yeah, thank you.
Mate, it is great spending some time with you. And, you've been on my wish list for a while, and we always have a good chat.
Got a Chugg Music meeting, a Zoom meeting in about 15 minutes. So you've done well to pull it up.
It's good stuff,
we
mate.
could talk for hours, as you know.
Well, we definitely could. And look, there's a lot more I could ask as well, mate. But look, thanks for the time again, and stay safe, and I'll see you soon.
All right, Chris. Love you.
All right. Hi, Chuggy.
Bye, mate.
See you, man.
Bye.
How good is he? Michael Chugg, an icon of the Australian music industry, and he can really tell a story. If you missed that Fleetwood Mac chat, well, you can go back now and catch up on all platforms. Michael Chugg on The Rider with Becko. Next week on the podcast, the drummer of Midnight Oil. They've released their final album. They're on their final Australian tour. And with an election coming up, it kind of feels like the timing is right for Midnight Oil to make an impact. Next week on the podcast, Rob Hurst from Midnight Oil. We'll catch you then. It's The Rider with Becko.